Hey everybody, happy Friday. We're going to do a little bit of a continuation on the ankle. I've had a request from Ronan in Toronto just to have a little bit of a talk about the big toe. Ronan's having some troubles with his big toe being a little bit sore and stiff. He doesn't want it to progress to the other side, and he's having he's gone and seen a therapist and told that he's got some degenerative issues in that big toe, which he might. But Ronan, hopefully this will help you out. Just a little bit of a rundown on some of the things to look out for in the foot and the ankle, and some of the things that you could maybe do just to help get on top of that. So let's make a start. So your big toe, everyone may have gone through having plantar fasciitis, might have had Achilles tendinopathies. No one really thinks about what's going on at the big toe, and that does play a part in the whole mechanism through the foot. So a quick little test that I want you to do is in standing, try and lift both big toes off the ground as high as you can. And you can see that my right side has got definitely 20 degrees or more, and my left side is about 20 degrees as well. And that's all we're looking for. We're looking for at least 20 degrees of great toe extension. And you might be thinking, what the hell has that got to do with anything? But your big toe is part of the whole mechanism of your posterior chain that running through your ankle. So you've got to think about your foot as this being number one, that plantar fascia, or the underside of the foot, being 2, your Achilles almost being 3, and this whole calf muscle complex being 4. Not only that, but it extends above the knee as well. So what we need to think about is there's something to talk about called the windlass mechanism, and windlass just means tightening of a cable or a cord, right? So think about the sports that we do or the exercise that we participate in where we need that really good toe off. And if we're missing that 20 degrees of extension and we therefore don't have a good ability to propel ourselves off on that toe off phase, then what starts to happen is if we're stiff through this joint, your plantar fascia or the underside of the foot will be prematurely loaded, which in turn puts prematurely loading through that Achilles and into the calf muscle as well. And that is enough to affect your gait and your running style. And this is where we start to see that people will start to have all of these kind of tight pulled plantar fasciitis kind of pains because of any one of these kinetic parts of the chain missing range of motion. So that's a really good one to sort of see, do I have that 20 degrees of extension so that I do have that equal opportunity to really stabilize the foot through that good motion through there. Another thing that you will tend to see as well is with this windlass mechanism, as soon as I extend the big toe, it pulls tight the cord, and by cord I mean my plantar fascia. And the plantar fascia runs from your heel bone all the way to the top of the phalanges here, which is this end little bone in the toe. And as a result, as soon as I extend my toe, this cord gets pulled tight. And because it gets pulled tight, it actually shifts or pushes that whole arch upwards and creates that stability or creates that arch support. So if I think about myself in this neutral position here, I have no pull on my cord, and generally speaking, I have no arch support or no stable arch. So you need to make sure that with every running step that you do, that you are activating that whole windlass effect, that tightening or pulling of the cord, in order to draw my arch upwards and be able to stabilize not only my foot, but my body above or over my foot. So that's the windlass mechanism and where we kind of see things that go wrong. Another thing to take note of is that if you look at my feet, they are absolutely terrible. They have no structural integrity at all. And why I say that is I have no arch. My entire foot has collapsed in on the inside of the foot, and as a result, like a lot of others, I tend to pronate my foot. By pronate, my foot rolls inwards, okay? Now, there's 2 movements to think about with your ankle. There is inversion, which is rolling out, and you often think about the type of ankle sprains you have to the ligaments on the outside of the ankle, and when we invert, it causes an inversion sprain, okay? The other second movement is eversion, so it's the opposite. And what we often see is that when someone pronates the foot, they have a tendency to really evert the foot. And what happens is that we have an ability, or I also have an ability to dorsiflex my ankle. And in order for me to get more dorsiflexion or ankle bending upwards, I will evert my foot, okay, in order to get that joint position a little bit more better or compensated for me to be able to dorsiflex. And the only reason I'm saying this with regards to the ankle is you've got to think about what happens to the big toe. So when I land and I evert, I almost basically put all of this extra stress and strain on the inside of my big toe. And if anyone has ever seen anyone that has what's called a bunion, which is almost like a bony growth on the on the inside of the big toe. You'll often see this bony growth with deviation of the toe. And what happens there is we've got a metatarsal phalangeal joint that therefore is not operating to its normal joint mechanics and is going to have difficulties extending. So Ronan, I guess for you is looking at the foot structure. Do you have a good arch? Getting someone to have a look at your running style, making sure that you're wearing the right shoes, making sure that both big toes are straight and not deviated, and making sure that both big toes have a good amount of extension in there. The other things you've got to consider is what's going on with your Achilles, what's going on with the back of your calf muscles, and making sure that the soleus and the gastroc at the back here from previous videos are nice and mobilized and nice and flexible, and you're not tightening any part of this chain and therefore putting extra pressure through the big toe. With regards to big toe mobilizations itself, what you can do, and always be guided by a bit of pain here, but if you're going to decide to go for a run, a nice little running warm-up is to simply bring one knee to the ground, bring the other knee to the ground. You can see that my heel's lifting off at the back, but what I'm encouraging here is on through that big toe, I'm encouraging really good extension. So everyone always does some nice calf stretches, or probably calf stretches, I think, before going on a run. But you need to also consider sort of warming up the ankle and warming up the big toe and getting some good motion in there before you get going for a run. So basically have a think of that, Ronan. Hopefully that does help you out a little bit through there. Also consider getting those trigger point balls and rolling out the plantar fascia underneath. Do those tests on yourself and see how you go. I would definitely get someone to film you on a treadmill and have a look at a running gait assessment and just see what's happening with your gait as well. Happy weekend, guys. Enjoy it. We'll see you tomorrow.